Alright, hello and welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're taking a look at something bad. I'll just come out and say it. This isn't anything good. This isn't gonna win you any tournaments. This will lead to not a lot of frustration, but this can lead to some frustrations as it has for me. But it's something pretty cool and interesting, and something that I haven't really seen elsewhere. So I'm proud of this really bad creation, I guess. It's not bad, say design-wise, it's just bad, as in you're basically going through a whole bunch of resources, doing a whole bunch of plays to end on a monster that's not really worth the effort you put into it. But that monster is Elemental Grace Doriado, which is one of the few Doriado cards. I'll actually go over here and look a few of them up. What did I put? Oh, I spelled it wrong. Oh boy! All right, here we go. No. What? It's limited. Oh god. Okay, there we go. We got there. But yeah, there's like an original normal monster of it. There's a ritual. There's a dark one. They all just kind of have to do with attributes, basically. And this is the newest incarnation. Now, it's a level 9, 0/0 light spellcaster. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by having 6 or more monsters with different attributes in the graveyards. Gains attack and defense equals the number of different attributes in the graveyards times 500. And when your opponent would special summon a monster, you can banish 3 monsters from your graveyard, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. Now, overall, that's not a bad effect. The fact that its attack is tied to it and the summoning condition is tied to attributes isn't good, but negating inherent summons indefinitely, not once per turn, is pretty damn good. However, the thing is, it can't stop some important cards like Double Evolution Pill, Monster Reborn. There's a lot of ways to actually kind of work around and get around this card, and it's more suited to certain matchups than just a blanket against most decks. But anyway, we're still taking a look at it because it's still a cool and interesting card. This is a series of cards that I do like and always kind of wanted to mess around with, but there was never enough. And then I've kind of finally found a way to make one of them work in something that's decently viable in a casual sense. But how are we getting 6 attributes in the grave to summon this card? Well, there's 2 interesting kind of categories in Yu-Gi-Oh! That are actually very accessible. Dragons are very accessible, and normal types are very accessible. Obviously, we have cards like Unexpected Die, Silent Doom, Swing of Memories, just things to get normals in the grave. We have, or to bring normals back in the grave, Theme Monster Reborns, ways to summon them out. In combo with that, we have the consistency cards of dragons and cards of consonants, and Dragon Shrine down here. And through the combo of all these cards, we can actually go ahead and get 6 attributes in grave turn 1. Now, that doesn't stop the fact that this card isn't really searchable in any viable way. At least, it's obviously like every card in the game is like technically searchable. You could do like some Sangan or Witch of the Black Forest stuff, but then I believe you actually can't summon them that turn, I believe. But you cannot activate cards or the effects of cards with the same name. So I guess you could pull some shenanigans out there, maybe do some Torghast stuff. But again, that's just adding more steps and more bricks and things like that. But so because it's not strictly searchable, we actually kind of go a little bit extra to try and draw into this card. Obviously, we have the copies of Desires down here, we have the Upstart, we have the cards of Consonants, always to try and draw into it, and we're also running 2 Saryuja as well. Now, that seems excessive, but a lot of the times, if we don't open this card, the way we kind of try to get to it is to draw into it off of Saryuja. If we don't draw into it off of Saryuja, use that to draw into some of these other consistency cards and try to get it from there. And overall, that gives us a total of 9 cards, our 5 starting hand, and the 4 we draw after that, which is just about a fourth of the deck and usually does end up getting you to our main monster up here. So that's basically how the deck functions. So let's go ahead and get into the list and the choices here. Now, we have 3 copies of Vanguard of the Dragon. He has an effect where you can send 1 Dragon-type monster from your hand to the graveyard, and this card gains 300 attack. It also kind of floats, so when this card you control is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you can target 1 Dragon-type normal monster in the player's graveyard and special summon that target. If it didn't have to be destroyed and just when it left the field, that would be, or just when it was sent to grave, that'd be amazing because it would really open up some link plays there. But this is just an earth target for Doriado that we can send off of Dragon Shrine. There's no level 4 or lower Earth Dragon normals, so I went for this instead. And it also just lets us indefinitely dump monsters from our hand into the grave because its effect isn't once per turn. So if you open this in, you know, a Doriado and a Luster Dragon and any of these cards, and you just want to get them in grave, you can just go ahead and dump them in grave from there. It's also just a big body. For our darks, we have one Doriado and one Labradorite Dragon. That name always throws me off, but Labrador Dragon is just a target for all of our reborn spells. Sadly can't be unexpected died out, but it's actually a target for cards of consonance, and there aren't many times that we actually have to unexpected die this card out or actually get into this card, because we actually have access to Link Doriado down here, which obviously special summoning level 1 tuners off of Needle Fiber gets us a dark in grave almost immediately, so this almost isn't really necessary. Doriado is again just something easy to dump into the grave to go ahead and summon out your Needle Fiber and kind of get your play started from there, even if it does go back to the bottom of the deck. Again, because of Link Doriado and the level 1 tuners, it actually doesn't matter. Now for some normal targets for unexpected die and also some cards with consonance targets, we have Luster Dragon, which obviously isn't a tuner, so not a cards target, but is a, you know, win target, normal dragon, so we can special off of unexpected die, all that stuff. And then these are some of the more versatile ones in that you can summon them off of unexpected die, off of all of our reborn cards, off of Needle Fiber, you can ditch them for cards of consonance, and in the case of Flammable Guard, you can make it into Link Doriado as well. And then obviously just to try and go into Doriado more easily, we have Glow Up Ball as well, because obviously it gets an Earth Engrave, you turn it into Link Doriado, it makes it dark, and it gets you, just summoning Needle Fiber gets you 3 monsters on board, and then opening, you know, any copy of these 6 revival spells will also get you the last monster to go ahead and go into Doriado from there. Obviously unexpected die to get any of the attributes we need out of our deck, except for water and earth, water, earth, and dark. We could run a level 4 lower dark target, but actually prefer to have the cards of consonance target, given that we can have such easy access to darks in Link Doriado, but we actually don't main deck any water targets because Needle Fiber down here is actually a water target, and he's so critical to the strategy of this deck that we're always going to be going into him and don't actually need to main deck any water ones from there. Yeah, Unexpected Die, just an amazing card to get almost any attribute out of the deck and just go ahead and start our plays off there. From there you can usually go into a Link Spider. Link Spider can special another one from hand. You haven't even used your normal, then you can go Needle Fiber. And then if you have another card in hand, you can obviously go ahead and normal summon that, and you have Doriado from there. Silent Doom and Swing of Memories are just generic extenders that bring back your normals. Again, just ways to kind of get into that Doriado if you don't have Doriado in hand. Monster Reborn, no explanation needed there. Desires, Upstart, cards of consonance, just consistency cards. Foolish, and the Dragon Shrines, again, just Dragon Shrine is another reason that I really like running this deck with dragons, because you can go ahead and dump any attribute with water into the grave immediately at any time. I actually was in the very, very, very first build of this running Dragon's Ravine as well, but it's completely unnecessary and was just taking away from the power of the deck. From there we have Designator from the Grave. This was an extra strike in some Ash Blossoms, but because of how critical cards like Needle Fiber are to the strategy of this deck, you know, how sometimes you need a Link Spider to go off, things like that, it is important to have this because you do have to protect your plays. You have to make sure they go off because this deck is really an all or nothing bust, and even when we do get the all, you're probably still going to lose anyway, in all honesty. It's just really cool to summon this card. And then the one-off Solemn Brigade at the bottom here as well. The side deck is just some extra stuff. Silver's Cry is obviously better than, you know, Silent Doom and Swing of Memories being a quick play, but it's not. It's a hard once per turn, which does hinder the deck a little bit because there are times where you do just want to keep resolving those revival spells, and that's how I went with those over Silver's Cry. Again, the Ash Blossom that I had to cut for Designator, and an interesting card here in Security Guard. Now, this is an interesting card because it's a Link one that just requires one Cyburst Link monster, and that's interesting because of the ease of access of some Cyberse monsters. This can actually let you put, I think it was like somewhere up to, you know, 4 or 5 attributes in grave using your extra deck. So for Fire, we actually had, this was the least accessible, but with Power Kotaka here, just these 3 monsters, if you can summon this onto the field, you're guaranteed to get a Fire in grave by using Security Guard down here. Same thing with Deco Talker is a dark target from there. Proxy Dragon is a light target. So as you can see, any generic Cyberse monster that you can go into, you can dump into the grave with this card and then have your grave set up, you know, with those last pieces you might have needed to actually go ahead and summon Doriado up here. Again, it was more in the early builds, and as I kept going and kept trying to perfect it, I found it less and less necessary. But it's just an extra option in case. The extra deck is nothing really crazy. We just have Ventrilo Duo for main phase 2. Again, just gets anything into the grave. Link Karibo, obviously one of the most important parts of the deck, you know, turning your level 1s into a dark and then being able to special glow up ball back to go into your Saryuja. And then we have Induck here, which is actually a very more key point of the deck as well, because Luster Dragon is less accessible than our tuners not being able to be specialed off of Needle Fiber, but this also lets us turn any of those dragon specials off of Needle Fiber or off of Unexpected Die into an Induck. Link Spider is actually very important as well because it turns, you know, any of your normal summons into another summon from hand. If you open multiples of your normals, you can go ahead Unexpected Die, like I was talking about earlier, and not even eat up your normal summon and get into Needle Fiber. And it's just a free Earth Engrave if you say banish your Glow Up Ball off Desires or something like that. For one of our only non-combo cards, I suppose, we actually have Heretic Seal of the Celestial Spheres, which is basically just a bounce on your opponent's turn. 1 Proxy Dragon, 2 Needle Fiber, because it's really the heart of the deck. Akashic, Decode, Summon Sorceress, Ningirsu, and Dekotalker being, again, some cards that aren't combo related, but kind of ending board related. Same thing with Borreload, and then the 2 copies of Saryuja, which, again, are just to try and help you draw into your Doriado up there. But yes, that's basically kind of the theory and everything behind the deck. I'm really not going to show off too many replays for this one because they're not very interesting. It's just kind of me going ahead and smooching out a Doriado turn 1, which really doesn't turn into much because it's just, again, eats up so many resources that you kind of just have that and maybe a Decode on board or a Saryuja on board, and it's really just not enough to stop, you know, a competent deck, even, you know, tier 2 or 3. It's just not strong enough to compete, and even on a casual level, you know, it's prone just actually, it's not prone to many bad hands, actually. I found myself really being able to make Doriado most turn 1s. The only problem being just not seeing it in hand. I've gotten down to like 10 cards in deck before and still haven't seen one somehow. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into, we'll probably do like 2 replays here. Okay, so we'll actually start off with probably the most impressive one here. You can see up at the top, we're up against ABC Invoked pretty much. ABC Invoked, True Draco. Yeah, that's a thing that's been happening, I guess. Or did happen at some point. We'll just ignore it, I guess. But as you see down here, we opened Doriado, we opened Vanguard and Labradorite Dragon and Silent Doom. But that on its own actually wasn't enough to go ahead and complete the combo because it wouldn't give us access to either fire or light. We either have to special a fire from deck or special a light from deck, and it just wasn't going to work out. So we actually will have to resolve the desires here, but as you can see, he'll Veiler that. We can still Vanguard for cost. Go ahead, bring that back, activate our desires, which does get us into a light we can special. As you can see, the importance of Link Spider there, just being able to get stuff out of our hand and into the grave, especially after a normal summon. We'll go for Destroyer just to get that on board as well, going to Needle Fiber, which grabs us a fire from deck. I actually was playing Jet Synchron for a little bit, but because it banishes itself, it's really not worth it. I'd rather just go for Blow Up Ball at that point. But from there, we'll actually be able to go into a Saryuja, just because really, we'll draw 3 cards of Consonance. So we'll just keep the Swing of Memories, plop down a Doriado with a little bit of a boost and pass from there. And as you can see, he didn't open super well, so he's just going to kind of go ahead. I guess maybe he thought he could actually activation from Pseudo-Space there, but he'll go ahead and make Underclock Taker, we'll let it go, and what I was waiting for, he'll make Buster, which is in fact an inherent summon, and we can actually go ahead and hit that with Doriado here, which was a very good feeling, and he'll just go ahead and scoop it up from there. Again, not a very realistic scenario. This is actually one deck it's slightly better against as ABC because they rely on that inherent summon of their boss monster. But again, don't get used to it being like that. This deck, again, fair warning, doesn't win very many games. It's just a kind of cool concept that I wanted to show off. And we'll go ahead and get into the really only other impressive one here, which honestly isn't that impressive anyway. A lot of these are just people kind of not reading what the card does, in all honesty, but that is an advantage you get when you play some obscure cards. So as you can see, we open Unexpected Die down here. We have a light in hand, we have a dark in hand. We can go ahead and summon out whatever attribute we need from deck, and then special light, and then normal and earth. So we're basically set up fairly well here. I actually kind of do the combo in a different way. I was probably tired or something doing this, and didn't do it completely ideally, but went ahead and we still made it here anyway. So we'll Unexpected Die into a Luster Dragon, which I believe I actually should have made that into a maybe if I would have done a Flamebolt Guard, turned it into that, then we could have, no, because we need the 2-around field, so it's really the same end result there. We'll go ahead, normal summon the Vanguard, go ahead and Needle Fiber, special Guard from deck, special Link Doriado, and that gives us enough engraved to go ahead and have Decode, Link Doriado, and Doriado, which is probably one of the better boards this deck has actually made. And you can see we're up against Moonless Dark Magician, and he's gonna still go for it. I don't know why he did, but he goes for the Crystal Wing, and we go ahead and just stop that there. I guess he was making us use up some resources, I don't know, but he does have a soul and a strike set here, so actually we won't be able to close out the game, sadly, which I would have actually had it there because he can't use any of those cards, but he'll be able to use the Apprentice, bait out the Doriado to be stricken there, and then from there he can obviously start out Dark Magician. He can get soul off from there. He will still activate Circle, which I guess is still the right play because it does make my Decode Talker weaker. He'll go into Dragon Knight and swing over from there. And really at this point we're top decking in a deck that just can't sustain any top decks. Also, I don't know what he's doing. He wasn't playing this right at all, but this deck's again just weak enough that he can do that. And we'll actually try to do another Doriado, but not having enough attributes engraved to actually be able to summon it here. He could have killed us. He'll keep making some plays and doing some stuff there. Don't know why. I hate when people do that. But we did get summoned a Doriado and a Decode, so it was kind of cool. And again, just showing off an interesting concept here. But anyway, yes, that was Elemental Grace Doriado, my little deck profile for that there. Something I'm more proud of, I guess. Again, it's using some more generic stuff here. Obviously, Needle Fiber and Soyuja not being the most creative of cards, although they do inhibit some creativity and elicit it out in other decks. Just inherently, they're very overused at this point, especially going to Glow Up Bulb and things of that nature. But it was one of the best ways to make this deck work. Again, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have to, but going into Soyuja and things like that is just necessary to draw into your main monster up here. But anyway, I'll stop rambling on about this deck because I've probably said every point about 7 times now, or no, I'll forget one and then have to tack it on at the end or something. But anyway, usual plugs at the end of the episodes. Link to my Twitter where some tweets go out about videos and random thoughts about Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. Link to my Discord as well where we chill, hang out, talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Among some other things, have some duels here and there, just general chill place overall, and a link to my Patreon as well, where if you appreciate the time and effort that goes into editing this, all the content that I make, especially the worst deck of all time series, and the time I put into testing these decks as well, because even more simple stuff like this that isn't good and might look like it's not that impressive. It actually does take a while of testing. I was playing this on and off throughout the week and actually trying to get the best that I could to show off for you guys there. But no pressure to support, just watching is enough for me. It's just if you have a little extra give, it would be greatly appreciated. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.